NSFW, what is the craziest thing you witnessed at a party? There's a certain club in Berlin. If you go to the men's bathroom, you're almost certainly going to run into this one guy who's been there for years, who will beg you and other random men to piss on his face. And thank you if you do. He will do it for hours every night. He is pretty polite and doesn't force you to piss on him, though he will beg you for it. I've seen a lot of crazy things, but this one dude is impossible to forget. An extremely drunk / high guy, I have no idea. He was wobbling around and hallucinating, and he made my bed. I watched. Also fairly drunk. From the corner of my room. As he fell on top of it over and over while attaching the sheets and tucking them under the mattress. Guy's mother must have drilled some crazy sense of duty into him. Hosted a party once and stayed sober so my house wouldn't turn into a wreck. Walked into my room and saw the biggest guy in my class, bodybuilding kind of big, drunk AF, sitting on my bed watching reruns of SpongeBob SquarePants and eating nachos. Then looked at me dead in the eye and said, "What? It's a good show." Edit. Typos. I once got stabbed in the f***ing chest at a party. This guy had a ceramic plate of wings, was drunk, and I accidentally bumped into him dropping his wings and plate. He got so f***ing mad he picked up a shard of the plate and stabbed me with it. I ended up going to the hospital but was mostly okay. I went to a college Halloween party about 8 years ago. Theirs was this dude dressed up in a pink gorilla costume just going ham. Life of the party. Dude went a little too hard. He ended up throwing up directly into his gorilla mask while wearing it. And then followed it up by power yeeting himself down the stairs. An ambulance came for him and we saw him again the next morning when he returned as a regular colored human and a cast on his leg. Got a gun pointed at my crotch by the girl whose apartment the party was at. She laughed and said it wasn't loaded. Then some guy called her back over to the table where he was sitting. He said, "Give me that," and proceeded to pull out the magazine. I left about then. My granddad likes to say it's always an unloaded gun that kills someone. Luckily that wasn't the case this time. Out by the barbecue at the back of the house late at night and mates urging me to look through the toilet window. I did, and it was my older sister getting shagged up against the door. Our eyes was horrible. These guys were trying to cook a pig, which none of them have ever done. So these geniuses came up with a plan to build a fire pit. Lay the pig on top. Then place a cast iron bathtub over the pig to cook. All day. When it was time to feed the partiers, they removed the tub to find nothing but ashes. They cremated a pig. Drinking with a bunch of friends. One guy's is smashed and spills his full drink all over the floor. He grabs the mop from the closet and starts mopping it up while the rest of us give him a hard time for wasting alcohol. Deadpan takes the mop, lifts it above his head and wrings it out into his mouth. Guy had a warrant out for his arrest for something stupid. No idea what. He saw flashing lights outside and panicked. He climbed out a tiny bathroom window without telling anyone and spent almost 2 hours on the roof, hiding in case the police came back. It wasn't the police. It was the meter maid checking for parking violations. A girl I know broke up with her boyfriend at a party. He was so mad and drunk that he took both his hands and formed a hammer and smashed through a windows. Next thing you know, he is on his knees, pissing blood, with both of his arteries severed. One dude that kept his speep together teared his shirt apart and tied both his arms, and carried him like a potato sack in his car, and flew to the hospital. He saved his life. In front of our eyes. We were like 20 people who saw this. and nobody, but this guy, did anything. We all stood there like idiots. Good thing the dude had a flying car handy. I was in a campground party during tree planting. A few people had done mushrooms and I got stuck babysitting one of them. I was pretty annoyed, but after a while he was doing better, so I went to go take a piss and I heard this loud noise and my first thought in the woods is bear. I keep the stream going, listening intently, and realize it's Speep, I think. The guy in the next campsite is flippin' loud. Whatever though, I zip up and walk back to the fire. Mushroom guy is good, but someone is missing. Where's James? They say he went to bed. Something clicks. No way. I go back to the ditch where I had just pissed. Kick James awake and take him back to his van. Then I sprint back to the fire and immediately tell everyone James passed out in the ditch and I had just pissed all over him. Went to some girl's house party who made the mistake of saying, when everyone was robbing her dad's stuff, okay, everyone can take just one item. Obviously that didn't go well, her house got obliterated. She got kicked out by her parents not long after the party and ended up on heroin. Very sad story, and nobody knows for 100% certain, but whenever we reminisce about it, my friends and I are pretty sure it's that house party that sparked her downward spiral, as she was a well-educated girl and quite well off before that situation happened. She also ended up on Kilroy, an old British talk show, talking about the dangers of heroin and homelessness years later. My friend's older brother Tim showed up uninvited. All night he kept asking everyone if they had seen his twin sister. She's here somewhere. I thought it was a little weird because he doesn't have a twin sister, but I shrugged it off. There was probably 80 to 100 people there. All night. He makes it a point to ask each and every group, each and every single person, if they had seen his twin sister. He can't find her. Around 1 a.m. in one swift movement, he tucks his wiener between his legs, drops his pants to his ankles, kills the stereo and starts screaming, "Twin sister! Twin sister!" while quickly shuffling all through the party. Good job, Tim. I went to a house party that got out of control. I was part of the clearing out squad and I found a very coked up dude in the bathroom washing his face in the sink, which appeared to filled with blood. Like horror movie levels of blood. Apparently he was punched in the face by somebody with a big ring which had sliced his nose. Essentially off. I will never forget him stuperously turning towards me to say something and his nose following his head on a 2-second delay like a door on a hinge. He looked like Red Skull from the Marvel movies. Guy tried to kill himself in the bathroom tub by slashing his wrists. It was a smallish party in an apartment with one bathroom, so people had to pee, so thankfully they got to him in time. We broke down the door when he finally said what he was doing and called an ambulance. He lived. Also went to a psych ward for a few weeks after this. I was in a band. The crowd was invited to the after party for a show. The guitarist was pretty interesting. He invites 2 chicks that are friends to wrestle in a kiddie pool full of vegetable oil. I had been in a committed relationship for a couple years at this point. Still wanted to watch, but was not wanting to be disloyal. So the crowd is watching the 2 girls go at it. I watch until their tops come off. Then exit the party. I see a very sad looking kid. Maybe 12 or 13 years old. Standing outside. Remembering being that age. And feeling bad. I say, "Hey, kid. Why so sad? You should go into the party. There's 2 chicks wrestling with their boobs hanging out." "That's my sister," he said. I felt so awful. Ended up hanging out with him to try to make him feel better. House party in college. Standing in the kitchen. It was low-key. Everyone was 1 or 2 degrees separated, so not a rager. A guy was doing a shot of Captain Morgan with a few others. He poured it out of a Nalgene bottle that everyone got at orientation. The guy was one of the heavier drinkers in the group. So he was already pretty deep in the sauce. After they all threw the shots back, he had that look. The maybe I can hold this one down look. He couldn't hold it down. Luckily he was nearest the kitchen sink when he threw up. But what came out was not normal. The unholy liquid that came from his mouth was deep red with chunks of what looked like muscle. A thin fluid with just masses of meat and other things. It was like an 80s movie special effect after a guy gets shot in the head. And all this was just thrown into a stainless steel kitchen sink and surrounding countertop. Before he was even done purging, he just groaned/screamed, turning on the water faucet while simultaneously scrapping the red vomit into the basin. Everyone was horrified. Turns out the guy had spent the day at a diner eating all-you-can-eat fried chicken with cherry cake for dessert with a group of friends. And also turns out the guy was me. I was that guy.